Salutations! Welcome to Pod Mortem. I'm Travis Hunter, joined as always by my co-hosts, my sister, and my brother-in-law.
Hi, I'm Reneé Hunter Vasquez.
Hi, I'm John Paul Vasquez.
This week, we're broadcasting live from the Slaughtered Lamb, discussing the 1981 horror comedy classic An American Werewolf in London. This film was written and directed by John Landis and stars David Naughton as David, Ginny Agger as Alex, Griffin Dunn as Jack, and John Woodvine as Dr. Hirsch. This film is considered a cult classic, especially for its melding of genres and its makeup effects done by the legendary Rick Baker. Baker would go on to win an Academy Award for Best Makeup in 1982. It was actually the first year of the category's existence. This film was suggested to us by friends of the show, Amy Mulder and Tessa Atkins. You can find them on Instagram at sickgirl1980 and at Tessa_surreal. They've both been incredibly supportive of the show, and we really, truly appreciate it. So, An American Werewolf in London. What were your first impressions on the film?
When I first seen it, it was a long time ago. I was a kid, and I remember bits and pieces of it, but watching it now, I know that I didn't remember shit.
Like in a good way, or like...
No, it was like... I do remember it, but then when watching it again, it was like, I don't remember any of this. So it was like, I mean, like I said, there was little, parts that I was like, okay, I remember this now. But for a majority of it, I'll say probably about 85% of it I did not remember.
So it was almost like a new movie.
Right, no, yeah.
It was literally a new movie for me because I had never seen it before today.
Yeah, neither have I. I think there's a good chance that maybe the setting of the end of the film might have been a reason why we never saw it as kids. But we'll definitely get into that a little later. One thing I will say is that there are a lot of images from the movie that I recognized having seen without ever having seen the film before.
That's true. Yeah.
Which I guess just shows that this is a true... Iconic classic horror film.
Right.
And honestly, for my money, outside of maybe Universal Wolfman, potentially one of the best Wolfman werewolf movies I've ever seen.
I agree. I always loved Silver Bullet.
Ah, that's fair.
For Werewolf Man. But after watching this today, it may be dethroned A, and B,
wow.
I see definite influences in transformation.
Oh, in Silver Bullet from this. That transformation scene is honestly one of the most iconic horror situations you can think of and consider, I see that scene as a reason to watch the movie, period. Definitely.
And it's like a 2-minute scene.
Oh, yeah.
But it's great.
Worth the price of admission.
Yeah, for
Which
sure.
was free for me. But I digress.
And John Paul's been trying to get me to watch this forever.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you feel silly?
I will. I do. I publicly apologize. I was pleasantly surprised by this movie.
Did you go into it thinking it was going to suck?
Not suck. I went into it expecting a lot more cheese, I guess.
Okay.
I'm not going to say suck, but I did not really expect to enjoy it.
That's why I didn't understand when you were like, it says comedy. I was like, it's not a comedy.
Well, I thought it would be a really silly, I was expecting cheese.
And
it does.
That.
If you look it up online, it says comedy horror.
I know. I see
which
that.
is, I think, a mislabeling of the film.
I mean, there's definite comedy in it.
Oh, but I wouldn't call it a comedy/horror movie.
There are scenes that are played strictly for comedy, though.
Yeah.
Even if there are some horrific visuals in it. That I did read, I saw an interview that Edgar Wright did. He did Shaun of the Dead and, all
love
those
Edgar Wright,
amazing movies. It was actually, according to that interview, An American Werewolf in London that kind of formed his style, so to speak.
Wow.
He gave it credit for being able to meld those genres in a way that he had never seen before.
Yeah.
And really, realistically, you could say if there wasn't an American Werewolf in London, we wouldn't have Shaun of the Dead. And so we got to give props to that.
Yeah, I shudder at that thought. And maybe because I did read, and John Paul, I think you'll be interested to hear this, especially, the studio had actually wanted Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi.
No.
It's because of John Landis. John Landis, with the exception of his first film, Schlock, in 1973, was like a comedy director.
Yeah.
He directed The Blues Brothers with John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd.
He had insisted that they use kind of no names.
Okay.
But that's who the studio had been pushing for, and that makes me like. I feel like that would be a completely different.
No, it would
movie.
be a comedy horror.
And Dan
Yeah,
Aykroyd,
then it would be comedy.
Dan
there's
Aykroyd
no-
was David. He was gonna be the lead.
No.
And I love Dan Aykroyd.
I know you do. That's why when I read that, I was like, wow.
Yeah, not for
No.
this.
I can't even imagine. It definitely would have been more of a comedy than what it ended up being.
I did also want to point out, on the basis of the special effects in this film, Michael Jackson personally reached out and hired John Landis and Rick Baker to do the special effects for the Thriller music video.
So we wouldn't have Thriller either if it
Without
wasn't
this
for
movie.
this movie.
He
So-
made Thriller.
Thriller.
So, again, iconic.
No, I didn't know that. That's
Yeah.
badass. But I'm glad that you watched the movie. And
I
liked
give
it.
full props. I do. It was.
Because like I said,
I was wrong.
I didn't remember a lot of it, but from what I remembered, I was like, it was a good movie. You know, I was like,
Yeah.
I remember it being like a movie I remember.
You shouldn't have been watching that as a child, though.
Again,
No,
right, again.
I do want to just point
There
that
was
out.
no supervision.
This is a
Two-
common thread
Right.
to all of your movies.
Two older brothers.
And here we are.
Yeah. And now we're watching American Werewolf.
Now, before we maul this film in the dead of night, we'd like to issue a warning for spoilers. Pod Mortem is a very in-depth podcast, and in thoroughly discussing horror films, we have no choice but to spoil a thing or two. If you don't wish to be spoiled, please go watch the film, then come back and enjoy the show. If you've already seen the film or don't care about spoilers, let's wolf this thing down. So the film opens with a dedication to Jim O'Rourke. I looked it up, and this guy actually produced John Landis' first film, and they were longtime friends. He actually, according to IMDb, gave John Landis his first job in the film industry
wow.
in like 1969.
Jeez.
And he apparently died of lung cancer just before production started on this movie. He was actually going to produce this movie.
Oh, that's sad.
And in his honor, Landis forbade smoking on set of the film.
Oh.
So I thought that was kind of nice.
Yeah.
So the film opens proper with simple opening credits over shots of like a hillside, and you hear a cover of Blue Moon by Bobby Vinton. I was very glad. I liked the cover. It was
I did
pretty
too.
cool,
Yeah.
pretty
It was
fitting.
great.
I'm glad they didn't go with like London Calling by The Clash or something.
Well, every song that's in this movie has moon in the title of the song.
That's neat.
Yeah.
That's really neat. The soundtrack they were able to put together, it's a little gimmicky, but it works.
But it's good.
It's really cool. It's a great soundtrack.
And I think it was.
Yeah, no, I think they did good.
Yeah.
That was good.
I think I had
Absolutely.
read that it was a Cat Stevens song that they wanted, and he wouldn't let them use it because he believes in werewolves. And
He's like, oh, I don't want them after
Right,
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys can. I'm not messing with that.
Right, fuck that.
Well, he's Cat Stevens. Cats are afraid of dogs.
Right? That's just
That's his
nature.
natural. Yeah, don't blame him. So we see a truck coming down the road, and it stops at an intersection. The driver gets out, opens up the truck. He walks to the back, and the back is filled with sheep, as well as two dudes. They'll be kind of our main characters for the proceedings. It's
Yeah.
David and Jack. And they get out, and the driver, who's English, he points them in the right direction of where they want to go and tells them to stay on the roads. And I think they're headed to Yorkshire,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken. So I'm watching this, I'm like, is this what backpackers do? You always hear about backpacking through Europe, but I'm like, do they hitchhike? Like, is that a common
I'm sure
thing?
they have to. And back then, everybody
Yeah, maybe
fucking
back
Yeah,
in
that's
the
fair.
day. Yeah, I
Even-
bet that would stink.
Yeah.
Though.
Oh, dude, you're just surrounded by sheep.
Yeah.
They did
They
say
were
goodbye to the
cute.
sheep.
They did say goodbye
Yeah,
to the sheep.
They're like, you were good riding companions.
I read that was ad-libbed, too.
Was it? I'm
Yeah.
not surprised.
Yeah.
Nobody writes a goodbye to a
Yeah.
sheep in the script. They do say their names to each other in kind of awkward expositional fashion.
I actually wrote down that the dialogue here is very expositional.
Yeah. David goes, Jack? And Jack goes, David?
David?
And you're like, come on, man. But it's good because now I'm like, okay, I know who they are.
Yeah.
So
Right.
you're like, it's fine. But they're walking along the road talking about girls, typical college guy bullshit, just the standard. They also established they've been friends for a very long time.
Yeah, but that was part of the expositional dialogue.
Yeah. When
They're
they're
like,
like, back in 8th grade.
yeah, we knew her since what? 5th grade? It's
Yeah.
like, you both
Like,
know
wow,
that.
Yeah, you don't need to talk about that. But they do have a casual friendship. They're just a couple old buddies.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's
they
good.
seem like just regular dudes.
Yeah.
I mean, all that seems like it would be fun except for all the walking.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you can miss
Lot
me
of
with
walking.
that.
Yeah, I'm not doing all that.
I'm a very sedentary man. I'd be like, hey, why did we have to get out of that sheep truck? That's all we'd be talking about the whole way.
Just stay with the sheep.
Yeah, I don't care. So they make their way down a hill, and they're standing outside of a pub called the Slaughtered Lamb. Jack seems a little hesitant to go in, but David's like, look, let's get some food. Let's get something to drink. And they even say something about possibly staying there.
Yeah.
Like the night. I don't know if pubs typically have
Yeah, he
overnights.
said they were looking for an inn or
They don't-
something.
yeah.
Oh, just in the town
I don't
area?
know.
So the pub's called the Slaughtered Lamb, but the logo of the pub is a bit
Sign-
graphic.
Yeah.
It's
Badass sign, though.
It
It
is
is pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. The graphic is a severed head of a wolf on a pike.
Yeah.
Not sure why it's called the Slaughtered Lamb
Yeah.
in that case, but
I put the sign makes no sense.
Yeah, no.
But
It
the
really,
name is
really
great.
doesn't. Oh,
Like
the
that
name
sounds
is
like
cool.
such a pub.
yeah.
Like it's perfect.
I feel like if they haven't opened up a Slaughtered Lamb pub, what are you doing with your
They're
life?
missing
Yeah.
out.
You need to. So as soon as they walk in, everybody just stares at them, and they kind of start talking, but nobody's answering them for a while.
Yeah, it's really awkward. in
Very
there.
awkward. So much for hospitality.
Yeah.
You know, they sit down and everyone has like shifty eyes about them being there. And the barkeep finally comes up and asks what they want. But it's like it's played for comedy
Yeah.
because they don't have anything that they ask for. They're
Yeah.
like, how about some soup? No. Coffee? No. And then she says, if you want anything warm, you have to have tea. And he's like, well, can we have tea? They go, no.
No.
So it's,
But we can make some, I guess.
yeah, it's like, oh, sorry to have to put you out.
You offered it to me.
Yeah. I didn't even know you had tea.
Yeah.
So they order it and wait, and they chat for a second about being uncomfortable. Jack points out the creepiest fucking sight you've ever seen in a bar, which
Yes.
is a carved pentagram in a wall,
Right.
surrounded by the creepiest Halloween-looking, dripping, creepy wax candles you've ever seen. And the candles are lit,
Yes.
and he's like, what's that?
Well, he tells his friend, ask him what that star's there
Yeah,
for.
it's like, yeah, I'm not doing that. You want to know so bad, you ask
You
him.
ask.
So the pub finally becomes a little bit lively because they joke about the star being a Texas thing.
Yeah.
You know? And so when the barkeep comes back, he's like, remember the Alamo? And then she talks about seeing the movie
Yeah.
at a theater in London. And then one of the guys, he starts joking around and he tells a joke about...
It's a pretty racist
It's
joke.
a pretty racist joke.
Yeah,
So the pub's filled with chatter, and at this point, he's asking him again. Jack's like, hey, ask him about the pentagram. Like, see what it's about. What is it? And I'm surrounded by people I don't know.
Yeah.
I am so far from being a local. It's none of my business. I don't care. I don't care enough to ask.
But it's so funny because everybody is laughing and having this great time.
Uh-huh.
And so he's like, what's that star for?
And it like a screeching
Probably
halt.
not the best way to,
No.
to do that.
You hear the record stop.
Just
Really,
Yeah.
you know?
he tried to
Like,
be so casual. It was
not
funny.
casual. at
I
all.
would be worried though if we walked into
I'd be
a
worried
place
too, but I
and
don't
then
think
we
I would.
seen that.
I
I'd
don't
be
think
like,
I would
no way.
ask.
No, I'm
don't
taking,
think I would
I'm
ask.
taking my
Yeah.
tea to go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you
please.
very much. So there's a guy that was playing darts, and I guess he missed the board, and he was very upset about that because when he asked that question, everything got all weird, and he's like,
Right.
I've never missed a shot before in my
Yeah.
life. And I'm like, bullshit. You
Yeah, right.
you've missed a
That's
shot.
a lie.
What about when you were an amateur? Was it your first time you picked up darts? Never mind. But David and Jack decide to leave. Good call. All the men in the bar are like, get out, but beware, oddly.
They say beware the moon.
Yeah. Very-
Beware the
Well,
Moors.
he
Yes.
he tells them to stay on the road
Uh-huh.
and be.
Which is the second time they've been told
Yeah.
this, and the
Yeah.
short time that they've been
So
here.
I would commit that to memory.
Stay on
Yeah.
the fucking road.
So
like
jot
every-
that down.
Right, everybody seems to keep telling us to stay
Yes.
on this
Let's
road
stick
thing.
to it.
Yeah.
And so oddly, the barkeep is like, you can't let them leave.
Which sounds horrifying.
Which sounds terrifying because what I originally thought at the time was, you can't let them leave. Grab them.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah,
like it's
no,
going to be, we're
yeah.
keeping them here.
Yes.
But she says it again, and you realize she's kind of saying it like, if they're out there alone, something bad's going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
It's more looking out
You
for them
can't
than
let
it
them
is.
go.
Exactly. So we get is standard in a horror movie, but even more standard in a werewolf movie, the shot of the clouds moving across the full moon.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which, look, it's a
It's
cliche
necessary.
shot, but I love it.
Yeah.
It's easy to please with that shot. So David and Jack are keeping to the road at the start, like the pub patrons told them to. But they're talking and joking about the pentagram in the bar, and then they just straight immediately from the bat, right?
Just walking, not giving a shit. Just, fuck that road.
It's
just
like,
keep going.
It's not like we were explicitly told to stay on the road.
So I'm going to listen to, what if it could be anything, but they disobey. Smart move. Back in the pub, though, the barkeep is really getting concerned. She tells everyone they should have warned them about, again, they're speaking in very vague terms.
Yeah.
And there's kind of a dispute.
Well, because they're like, this is murder at this point.
Yeah.
And the other guy's like, then it's murder. Like, I don't know.
I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
I'm not going out there. But the thing is like, they hear the howl of clearly a werewolf.
Yeah, something.
And then the barkeep's like, we need to go get them. And the guy's like, I didn't hear anything.
What?
Like, yeah. I don't know what you're talking about.
Everybody heard it. Like, everybody. It was clear as day. But honestly, I can't blame him.
No, fuck that.
I mean, I'm in a warm pub. These are my choices.
Yeah.
I would have warned, but you could have warned them.
Yeah, but
like, and if they didn't listen, that would have been their own fault.
But he makes a good point because he's like, if we were to tell them that, what would they even believe
No,
us?
yeah.
Then that's their own fault.
Yeah,
but
then
I
my
did
conscience
everything
is
that I
clear.
could. Exactly.
I didn't get these two college kids murdered.
Yes.
So David and Jack hear the howl as well.
Did you notice that it was raining and then now it's not raining?
Yes. When they got off the path, it was raining and they're singing loudly. And
in
then
Italian.
It's, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, as soon as we cut back to them, it's dry as a bone.
I was thinking that too. I was like, did the rain just
What
stop?
happened to the rain?
Like,
Continuity error. They're like, well, we
Well,
only
'cause
have
even
50
in-
gallons of
yeah.
water. We'll use it for this scene. So they kind of bicker a bit about what the howling sound is. And then after a while, it keeps happening. And they're like, let's turn back and go to the slaughtered lamb. Like, I don't care how awkward it was earlier.
No.
It's our best bet instead of being out here with whatever this is. So they realize they're lost, even though they literally made one turn.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
Apparently, it's easy to get lost when you walk in a straight line. So,
in an open field that you should be
just
able to
look
see
at
where
the
you
road.
came from.
Look for the road. So the howls turn to growls.
Yeah.
And they're way closer than before. And so they rush off, and David falls down.
Yeah.
Jack reaches out his hand to help him up, but he's immediately attacked by a wolf.
He's taken down.
As I was watching, I was like, is it too early to say werewolf? Because we know what's going on.
We know what
the
it
title
is.
of the damn movie.
Right.
So it's a werewolf, right? David, in total best friends forever fashion, takes off immediately.
Takes the fuck off.
Yeah.
Leaves Jack for dead. Now, this
Knees
is
to chest. That dude is gone.
This is what made it worse for me, is that they are already experiencing some shit. David falls. Jack turns around to help him up. That's why he got attacked by the wolf. And then David runs away.
Yeah, he took off.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
it's nothing. So he decides to turn back. Finally, he runs back to Jack, but Jack
a little
is
too late. Yeah.
Jack has been munched. Dude is dead.
No,
it looks
that thing fucked him up.
like real bad.
Yeah.
There's a bite like on his torso, and it looks good.
No,
Yeah,
The
man.
makeup is good.
Yeah.
It's like
you can't say a bad
No,
thing about any of the
not
makeup
at
in this
all.
movie.
No, a lot of it
Yes.
is super, super good.
it's like glistening
Yeah.
in the moonlight. It's great. So just as David's like lamenting Jack's death because he realized that he left his friend to die, it's his turn to dance with the werewolf.
Oh yeah.
And the werewolf fucking takes
he
it
bitch slaps him.
to the ground. And then he just starts, it's these odd POV shots, and you just see him kind of just getting his ass kicked by the
Yeah.
wolf for a bit. But then, out of nowhere, the people from
Yeah.
the pub show up. And
Which is pretty cool because it's like,
Yeah.
you know that bartender bitched, and so they were like, fuck,
Fine,
okay.
we'll do it.
We'll go.
Interestingly, I did read that all the pub patrons were played by local actors in England, like stage actors,
I
because
love that.
they wanted to cast locally.
Oh,
There was actually a big deal because the union or whatever wanted a certain actor to be cast as a character that shows up later in the film, but John Landis said no. And it was such a dispute that he almost rewrote the film and moved it to Paris instead
my
of England.
God.
Yeah, I did read that because
Yeah.
they were having problems with the visas, and they were only wanted to give them the 3.
Well, I
Yeah.
had read that they only got 4. It was David, Jack, Rick Baker, and John Landis.
Really?
That was
so
it.
No,
it's just
yeah.
problems on top of problems. You got the
Yeah.
visas, you got the actors that want more, and then you're like, you know, fuck it, let's go to Paris.
Yeah, it's not even worth
Like,
all
I'm not
this.
even doing this.
Yeah, they were the only 4 that were able to work
Yeah.
over there.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
But thankfully, those local actors
That's really cool,
No.
though.
shoot the wolf. They pull a Frank Reynolds. They start blasting on sight.
Yeah.
And David is on the ground. He looks over to look at the body of the wolf, but instead of a wolf, it's a naked man just riddled with bullets.
Yep.
He oddly does not have a reaction to this. I understand maybe he's in shock, maybe he's a little delirious, a lot of shit did just happen. But at the same time, I'd be like, even if I'm out of it, I'd be like, what the fuck? Something.
At least.
He looks up and all the pub patrons are like crowded over him.
Yeah.
Almost like the shot in Rosemary's Baby where they're looking into the carriage. And then he passes out and he's earned a little shut-eye.
Yeah.
When he wakes up, he's in a hospital and it's kind of sad because he calls for Jack immediately as he wakes up. There's a nurse named Alex, and she's checking up on him. Then Dr. Hirsch, who I guess is David's doctor, he comes in. He tells Alex and another nurse to go tend to their duties. And this conversation kind of allows for some interesting developments, I thought, because Dr. Hirsch says that the police report claimed that David and Jack were attacked by an escaped lunatic.
Yeah.
So, with all those witnesses in the town, they seem to be well aware of werewolves.
For that to be the official story.
They're still keeping it under wraps.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of interesting that they're not letting this story get out. Also, interestingly, I looked up the etymology of the word lunatic, and it literally comes from
Luna?
The old belief, of people having psychotic behavioral changes because of the moon.
How cool.
So technically, the doctor's not
lunatic.
wrong. It was a lunatic. So they're like, we're not going to lie to the police.
Yeah.
That doctor also, like, his bedside manner needs some adjusting, I think.
No, I need some work, man.
He wouldn't, David had asked for Jack. He's like, look, I'm going to need you to prepare yourself. Jack's dead. He's like,
Yeah. Well, you didn't give me time to prepare
right,
myself.
I was not prepared.
Yeah. More of a pause next time.
Yes.
No pun intended with the pause. But the doctor checks in on him, and we see POV shots of, I guess, a wolf running through shrubbery.
Yeah.
It seems like. And I'm like, is that supposed to be what David is thinking about right now? Like, is this just what it is to be a wolf? You know, like I was a little confused by that because it's not like he fell asleep. He's talking to the doctor.
Yeah, no, it was odd.
Right?
Yeah.
So David asks about Jack, and the doctor fills him in. And there's also another guy there, Mr. Collins.
The American.
Yeah, he's from the American Embassy. He's played by Frank Oz, who is a famous director and a puppeteer. He also voiced Miss Piggy, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, shit.
And
And
he's
the Muppets
super,
are in this.
Yeah, and
yeah.
I believe I read on IMDb that when they're watching the Muppets later, he's voicing Miss Piggy in that scene.
Cool.
But he also played Yoda.
What?
Yes. So, and he also directed, if I'm not mistaken, Little Shop of Horrors. So it's a very interesting little cameo.
And Rick Baker worked on Star Wars, too.
Well, then it's just a...
How crazy.
And then Kevin Bacon. No. So David, I guess, gets a little too excited, so they give him a sedative. After they tell him that
But he was not...
Jack's dead.
He was not excited enough for any of that.
No,
I don't think.
I feel like they wanted to just...
Yeah, the American guy is like, stop being hysterical.
Yeah, that dude was a dick for no
He
reason.
was.
No, he's-
He was. And then when he's walking out, he was basically like, I can't believe, like,
Yeah.
why are they always like this? Oh, wait, who?
Yeah, right.
What are you
talking
talking
How many
about?
times have you done this?
Yeah. So Dr. Hirsch tells him that he's been in the hospital for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And he tries to explain, he was attacked by a lunatic. And as the doctor's on his way out, David's like, no, that was not a lunatic. It was a wolf.
Yeah, I know. He's very honest.
And the doctor's like, did that dude just say wolf? And Alex is like, yep. So in the next scene, Dr. Hirsch is in his office and he gets a visit from a couple of policemen from Scotland Yard.
One of them, a very slapstick.
Yeah. It was Inspector Villiers or something like that. I can't remember his name. And his sergeant. And the sergeant's like the clumsy, like Inspector Clouseau level of absurdity. He drops some of those pans, like those kidney bean shaped, or I guess you could just say kidney shaped because it's in a hospital.
Oh, yeah.
Some of those kidney shaped pans. And then like there's a scene of him trying to get them back together.
Which is literally like a toddler's toy that
Yes.
toddlers can figure out.
Yeah.
But he was having
He's
some
not-
trouble putting it back together.
It's just a lot of odd offbeat comedy in this scene.
Yeah.
I don't really get it. But after they talk to Dr. Hirsch, the police go and visit David, and they don't really seem to believe his story. At all.
Right.
They also say the matter is closed, and they're not going to trouble him about it anymore. So the
Well, but that dumb detective was kind of like, well, maybe.
yeah,
And his superior looked at him like, shut the fuck up.
he did. Like, I don't know why, because honestly, when you think about the story that they've put together, it doesn't make any
It
sense.
makes no
No,
sense.
yeah.
And even the wounds, but I guess the doctor was like, you'd be surprised what these people can do. It's like,
What
no,
are you talking
Like,
about?
what
they
do
don't
you
have
know
claws.
about?
No.
Yeah.
The lunatic scratched, like,
Yes.
perfectly. I don't know.
And mauled.
It was Wolverine, all right? Weapon X escaped. So David didn't remember witnesses at the scene, but I guess the police say that there were witnesses, and they told what happened as far as the lunatic was concerned.
Yeah,
quote
and they
unquote.
have a body for the lunatic.
Which, what? Right?
Well, the werewolf body, human
Oh, that's
form
true.
body.
Yeah, there was no dog. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fair.
Yeah.
So then we get another odd POV shot, and it's assumed, again, that it's a wolf running around in the wild, but it turns out it was David,
Yeah.
and he's running around naked.
Yeah.
And he spots a couple of deer, and he attacks one of them and starts feeding on it. He rips his head
No,
off
he's
and
tearing
like,
it
he's
up.
getting
Yeah.
into it.
He's eating the leg.
So at this point, is this a hallucination? Is this what David's daydreaming about?
I don't know. Or
'Cause he
did this
hasn't-
happen before he was picked up?
That's the other
I don't
question. I don't
know.
know. Because honestly, whenever he's running through the woods, I don't remember seeing his wounds. So I was just a little confused.
I was just taking it as dreams, but
Maybe
Yeah,
it is.
maybe.
Or
Because
maybe
I
like
guess,
yearnings that he's having now.
like, he's like, man, I could go
yeah.
for a deer
I
face
love
right now.
some deer right
Deer
now.
face.
Yeah. So, anyway, we're back in the hospital. Alex is making the rounds with her patients. It's kind of pointless, I think. She gets her ass slapped by a child.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh yeah, John Landis directed Animal House. Like, I remember, like all that 80s ridiculous, or maybe even 70s comedies, and that's the kind of humor that was prevalent. So you're like,
Right.
it's John Landis.
Are we going to talk about the little boy?
I mean, we can. I was like, why is this here?
Well,
he doesn't even take a drink of the water. Like
What?
it was.
did you notice the drink? Because
No, I
it's the
did
kind
not.
of thing that
So,
would make you mad.
She's talking to a child patient, pediatric,
Benjamin.
and
Who
he's
is
answering.
clearly had to have been somebody's son or nephew
Yeah.
or something.
His only line is no.
No,
He
yeah.
answers no to everything. And I guess when she gave him a pill, he didn't drink it.
Well,
or
she
drink
gave
the water.
she gave him the pill, and then she handed him a glass
a
or
little,
the little thing of
cup,
water,
yeah.
and he like puts it to his face and then moves it back.
The water's in the cup, and the
Yeah.
water doesn't make it to his
And
mouth.
What did
It's the kind of thing that would piss you off.
really?
And so I thought about
I'm
you
glad
when I saw
I
it.
didn't notice. John Landis is like, just take it. We don't care.
Right,
Just
it
next
doesn't
scene.
matter.
Next scene.
But I mean, the little boy himself is pointless.
No, yeah.
Like, it's not.
And he pops up again later.
He does.
And I'm
and
like,
it's-
what is
I've
this?
needed both times.
He's like, I'm gonna need an also starring credit. It's like, whatever, kid. Anyway, so after she checks in on that kid, she checks on David, who apparently hasn't eaten lunch. He hasn't been eating anything. He has to eat in order to take the pills that she's gonna give him. So she's like, you're putting me in a bind here, dude.
But in that scene when she's talking to him, he keeps putting his headphones back on and then acting surprised when he can't hear
Oh,
her.
what? You haven't left? Oh, what's that? Yeah.
What?
It's very odd. I don't know if this was flirting back then or because it's obvious even at this point that they're
It's
trying to
gonna
set
happen,
up the
yeah.
romantic
Yeah.
plot.
Well, because
line
they
of the
give each
movie.
other their first names, and I'm like, it's just a matter of time now. That's
all.
it.
Isn't that all you needed? The
That's
first
it.
name? So, since he hasn't eaten, she opens up the cloche of the food that's on his table and she starts cutting it and like feeding him like a child.
Like and she gives him one tiny bite of food, and he chews for like a full minute.
I always noticed in movies, actors don't eat like us, man.
No.
Like, I don't know what it is. They eat like so weird. I think maybe because they're like, if they have to do that take 50 times, it's like, I'm not eating 45 pieces of steak.
No, yeah.
Unless
know?
you're playing Tony Soprano.
Yeah, and then you just move it around a lot. So we then get a shot of David running through the woods. This time he's clothed.
Yeah.
It's definitely a bad dream of some kind because off in the distance in the woods, he sees himself in his hospital bed with Alex walking up to him. And then we see David from Alex's point of view, and suddenly his skin's pale. He opens his eyes and they're yellow and his teeth are sharp. This is one of the images that I know from this movie that I did not know was from this movie because I've seen that dozens of times.
It was very unexpected. I was
No,
not
yeah,
expecting
No,
that.
not at
didn't
all.
The
remember that at
makeup
all.
was incredible. It reminded me of Reagan from The Exorcist.
Yes.
And I read that those were glass contacts in his eyes.
See,
Glass.
Yes.
I read.
Isn't that a bit dangerous?
Yes.
I think that if I'm not mistaken, that's what they used on Evil Dead as well, which is why they hurt so much, because those are not meant to be worn for an extended period of time.
No.
They're probably not meant to be worn at all.
Yeah. Period.
But no.
No, but I thought that was a really great shot.
It was a great shot. And honestly, when you think about it, his eyes almost look like Michael Jackson's in Thriller.
They do.
Right?
Michael Jackson's like, give me that.
Yeah. But I feel like he didn't wear the contacts, Michael Jackson. They superimposed those eyes with Vincent Price laughing. So, in the next scene, David's telling Dr. Hirsch about his nightmare, but Hirsch isn't really into hearing about that. He starts... Well, he's like, I'm not a psychiatrist, all right? So tell me more about this attack. And so he doesn't believe that it was a wolf, and he tells... This should be a red flag for the doctor. He tells David that his wounds were cleaned before he arrived at the hospital.
Yes.
Now...
But he says it like, come to think of it, you're like, that's interesting.
Oh, well. Anyway.
Yeah, fuck it. It's fine.
Shouldn't we be asking more questions? Like, who cleaned them? You know, I guess he's a doctor, not a detective, right?
Yes.
So Dr. Hirsch sends Alex in to keep David company.
I'm like, is she getting paid overtime for this?
I would hope so, because she's
there
all the time.
Yeah.
And reading in the chair. And I mean, I'm like, does she get to go home?
That's in her job description. She's like, look, any wolf attacks, that's you.
I'm your girl.
You signed up for wolf attacks. I didn't tell you to do that.
I didn't tell you to do that.
So David's blatantly checking Alex out as she's sitting there. She stretches back and he's like, hello, it's my time.
She's like, I thought you were asleep. It's like his eyes are wide open. He has extra eyes now.
Extra eyes. Maybe she needs to go back to nursing school. She's like, I can't tell a sleeping patient from a awake. I tried to feed a dude a pill and he woke up and screamed at me. I don't know. So he drifts off to sleep and apparently has another nightmare. Now,
can we talk?
Can we talk about this nightmare? Now, I guess David in this nightmare is at home studying with his family. The family's watching the Muppets, like we said earlier. This is where we get Frank Oz for the second time. Out of nowhere, some fucking, like, monsters in Nazi uniforms burst in.
I think they're technically supposed to be Nazi werewolves.
But
I thought they were Nazi aliens.
But the thing is that they don't look like werewolves at all.
They don't look like the established werewolves in this universe.
But at one point, one of them doesn't have a hat on and there's no hair on top.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
I read Nazi werewolves, but I interpreted them as aliens when I watched it.
Yeah, to me,
or monsters. I didn't read werewolf.
Yeah, to me they just look like your garden variety monster.
Yes.
So they burst in and lay waste to David's entire family with machine guns.
Yeah,
right.
No.
And then
I didn't know what the.
You're like, what the fuck is happening?
What does this have to do with any of this, right? And so as I'm watching
so
this,
over the top.
I'm just laughing and like shrugging, like I don't know what's going on. This is from a different movie. Landis is like, no, we're setting up a universe,
right?
You know. So there's one Nazi monster that's standing behind David, and he's got a knife to his throat, and he cuts his throat.
Fun fact: that Nazi werewolf is Rick Baker,
the one that cut his throat.
Right?
Isn't that cool? That's like really cool.
So he kind of got himself a little cameo.
Yeah.
After all that hard work, you've earned it.
As a Nazi werewolf.
Yeah, you know.
That's such a weird thing to be. A Nazi werewolf.
Every boy's dream, I think, right? I did read on Film School Rejects that this scene led to walkouts because people were as confused as I was.
Yeah.
Right.
They're like, I don't know what this is.
Yeah.
So
and they had said that the scene was really violent and gory and that a lot of people were disturbed by it.
But see, I don't see that.
I don't either,
I see more the confusion angle.
Yeah, I was just confused.
Yeah.
I wasn't
they said
like,
that was like a turning point.
I was like, oh, this is over. You know what I mean? This is over the top.
It's very over the top.
Well,
but like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
Well, because it's so mundane. Somebody's at the door and the mom's like, get the door! Like, all annoyed. It's so mundane, and then boom.
It really doesn't make any sense,
No.
and it doesn't fit in. I expected another werewolf-centric nightmare of David's, but
no, this was very left field.
He wakes up, and Alex is sitting there, and he tells Alex that he had a nightmare, and she's like, I've got just the thing. So she goes and opens the drapes, where another Nazi monster mutant thing is waiting and stabs her to death.
Yeah, I was not expecting that.
And then David wakes up
David-
again.
He wakes up and goes, "Holy shit!"
No, but honestly,
Which made me laugh out
No,
loud.
yeah.
that deserved that. Because what else are you gonna say when that
Well,
happens?
that got me because I was
No,
like,
I was-
like,
You thought he was
okay.
awake.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, he's awake. He was like, damn, that was a weird ass dream. And then another one comes, and I was like, oh shit.
I've got just the thing. She said, "Oh, what? Getting stabbed to death
Yeah.
by a Nazi monster?"
Holy shit!
So
He wasn't
I will-
ready for it.
I will say I'm not a big fan of the double dream fake out,
Right.
but in 1981, maybe this was a fresh idea.
No, yeah.
Wasn't overdone yet.
Right, so I kind of gave them a pass on this one. I wasn't going to be overly critical.
Right.
So, just as David is sitting down to breakfast,
With the really aggressive guy who brings his breakfast. And I thought it was weird also because he has a full salt and pepper shaker on his tray.
I don't think that's
Like
typically how it's
actual
done.
salt and pepper shakers.
It's like, isn't the cafe going to need these? Like, no, you're our main priority.
It's all right,
we've got,
werewolf guy.
Right.
Yeah, Alex is working overtime for you. Here's the salt and pepper shaker. I'd stay in the hospital. I'm getting treated like royalty here.
That's how the hospitals are over there.
Yeah, maybe. Hey, so as he's sitting down to this scrumptious breakfast, he is visited by the mauled corpse of Jack.
It looks so good.
It looks
The
amazing.
skin flap
Yeah.
on
Dude,
his
that's
face.
exactly what I.
Are you kidding?
I couldn't stop looking at that.
Oh
every
my god, it looked
Like,
so good.
I did too. I was like, that looks fucking
It
real.
did.
I was like, that
It's
looks
nuts.
crazy.
And then he grabs the toast and dips it in the eggs.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'll have some of that.
All right, relax, buddy.
Yeah.
What?
And so here's two things. One that I noticed, the scene is gruesome because of the makeup effects. You know, you have his flesh, like you said, the flaps
Yeah,
of his
man.
neck. His entire face has just got a giant scratch in it. He looks messed up, but he's acting normal.
Totally normal.
Totally normal. I read that Landis told him, in these scenes when you come back, be as happy as you can be. Just play it regular. And that's a great call because it makes these scenes oddly unsettling.
Right.
It is, and I feel like part of the reason I enjoyed this movie so much is because you expect certain things. Like, if this happens, you expect him to be vengeful and angry.
Exactly.
And you ran away. Like, he's not. It's like his buddy's coming back.
No, that's true. In every other movie,
It
that's
would-
what it would
Yeah.
be.
This
no,
movie
He would make him feel
surprised me.
guilty.
Exactly. This movie surprised me several times in that way where I'm like, okay, obviously
He's gonna.
A is going to happen. And then no, it's B,
Nope.
which I appreciate that.
No, but that's good.
Yeah.
So they chat about Jack's funeral, and David's like, "I'm going insane."
Yeah.
Like he's like, "This is it." So Jack tells David they were indeed attacked by a werewolf, and because Jack suffered an unnatural death at the hands of this werewolf, he's forced to roam the earth as like a ghost
Yeah.
until the bloodline of the werewolf is severed. Now, because the pub people killed that werewolf, that bloodline of the werewolf now ends with David.
Yeah.
So he's telling him, look, I got mauled. I'm a ghost. I got to walk around. You got mauled.
got-
You lived. So you're going to turn into a werewolf
Yeah.
now. That's kind of just how this works. I don't know a lot about werewolf lore or whatever, but I've never heard of people being killed by a werewolf and being forced to walk the earth.
No, I think it's a unique
Really?
It's a very
caveat. I've never
interesting-
heard of
I
that.
have.
I just kind of you
I
hear.
can't remember what. There was another movie or a show I watched, but that was the same thing.
Really?
They got attacked by the werewolf, and they're like, "Until you kill it, I can't die."
That's nuts.
Ah.
Because it was kind of a fresh idea to me. Because I was like, you know what? Here's what's going on. He's just seeing things,
Right.
Because
Yeah.
he feels guilty. But you're like, no, there are rules in place.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also appreciate that. I feel like in a lot of other movies, the first half of the movie would be David trying to figure out what really happened and hunting
Yes.
down the people from the pub. But in
Yeah.
this, it's like, dude, I'm dead. You're a werewolf now. I'm stuck. Like, it's very fucking like,
Honestly, Jack's like, I'm dead. You're a werewolf now. Kill yourself.
now you gotta kill yourself.
He does. He's like, you need to
does.
kill yourself.
If
you
you could just
gotta.
do me
Like,
this favor.
I'm not doing this another day. Kill yourself. And so,
I like that they went that route and not, because I could see this turning into like a, oh, so where did
no,
this start?
exactly.
You
And
know?
then
Yeah.
you kill the head werewolf or
Exactly.
something.
Yes.
And then that's the end of the movie. And then
No, it's like it's
David
you,
and Alex
son.
live happily ever after.
Yeah,
you know?
it's you.
Yeah. So I guess he just is gone. because when Alex comes back, David's crying. I think he's earned a good cry. He's been through some shit. So he kisses Alex on the mouth.
Yes.
And tells her, I'm a werewolf.
Yeah.
Now, Alex,
That part made me laugh, dude.
she's I don't know if she's just desperate or what, but because she doesn't seem to have any problem with this.
All right.
She is incredibly chill about everything that happens.
A little too chill.
Too chill.
Yeah.
A little too chill. So he says straight up, I saw Jack. He came in. He told me I'm going to become a werewolf in a couple days. And she's like, no, you're just dreaming.
And he's like, all right.
Yeah, all right, cool.
He's so suggestible. 'Cause
No, yeah.
Jack comes and he's like, I'm a fucking werewolf. And she's like, no, you're not. All right.
All right. Anybody can say anything to this dude.
Okay, cool.
So after all that, she's like, so you got a place to stay after all this? It's like, yeah, he just said his dead best friend visited him and that he's going to be a werewolf.
Yeah, but
yeah, cool.
Come and stay with me.
we don't see all the red flags.
What's
It's
your
fine.
screening process, Alex? Good
0.
Lord. None.
0.
There is none. She's like, screening process?
Yeah, right.
So, once he's discharged from the hospital, he's going to go live with her.
Yeah, it's
He's
right
like,
away.
You live by yourself? Good. I'd be
it's
like, you
like,
know what? Never mind. Never
A
mind.
little creepy, sir.
Like,
What
why'd you
did-
answer that way?
Yeah.
Right?
He was rubbing his hands together, all shifty like. It's like, I don't trust this guy anymore. No. So they ride the subway to Alex's apartment, and you see these like British punks, which is, it's 1981. It's honestly, when you think about it, really the only thing that dates the film.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I mean, everything else, you could just be whenever, but you're like,
Yeah.
these British punks are specifically
Yeah,
Very.
from
late 70s, early 80s.
Very. Wouldn't that have been a great scene if they beat his ass? Like,
Oh,
he's,
yeah.
he's like making fun
He
of him
was
behind
making,
their back. Yeah.
and trying to make her laugh, and they're like, get him! So they get to her apartment, and she shows him around, and there's like a super awkward conversation once they get to her bedroom about her sexual history.
Yeah.
The oversharing is real, and it
It's-
comes
yeah.
out of nowhere.
And it doesn't make any sense.
No.
Now, you don't know this dude, but let's just tell him how many people you slept
Yes.
with.
And how many of them were one night stands?
Yeah.
It's like, what are you?
Fuck.
It makes no sense, but apparently it...
He doesn't care.
No, and then she's like, her only reason for having done any of this is she's like, look, you're really
You're
attractive.
hot.
Yeah, she
says
says it a few times.
Yeah, it's like, that's all?
Yeah.
That overrides the insane shit that he was telling
And
you at the
literally
hospital.
She
how
does.
batshit crazy you're
I know
coming
you
on.
say you're
Absolutely.
a werewolf, but I'm kind of turned on.
Like, so,
I'm not worried about it.
let's go take a shower together.
Yeah.
They take a shower together and then they sleep together.
It's really awkward.
It's very awkward.
And it goes on for a really long time.
Too long,
And
dude.
I read
Yeah.
that to get an R rating, they had to cut a substantial amount out of that scene. So it was even
Good
longer.
Lord, was it just straight porn?
I don't know.
They're like, we're just gonna go.
Even as I'm watching this, I'm like,
No,
still?
I seriously, I literally looked down at my notes to keep typing. I'm like, no, still banging. All right.
I got time.
Yeah, 14 minutes of, no. It was a lot. And so
Yeah.
It was a long time.
they, good for them. They finally get finished, and David goes to the bathroom, and as he's washing his hands, he closes the mirror, and it's that old horror cliche, because as soon as he closes the mirror, you see Jack behind him.
And then he screams at full volume.
He does, and Alex is
asleep.
she's a heavy sleeper. It didn't really affect her that much. But Jack looks way worse than before.
Yeah,
He's
he
green.
looks really bad.
He's like if old Greg got caught in a wood chipper. Like, he looks bad.
I do like that though because
That's
it
so
shows
cool.
that he's like deteriorating. He's
Yes.
like, you need to.
you
he's
got to
like,
do
hurry
something.
up,
Yeah, he's
man.
like, come
Kill
on, dude.
yourself.
Yeah.
What did
And-
you not understand?
And that's basically the chat that they have. He's like, look, just reiterating everything he
Yeah.
said before. He's like, look, man, you gotta kill yourself.
And he's like, you're going to turn tomorrow. There's a full moon tomorrow.
That's the other thing, is because it's like between the first chat and this chat, he's like, okay, I need to workshop my appeal. Before it was, I'm sick of this, kill yourself. Now it's like, you could kill other people.
You clearly don't give a shit about me.
because you're friends since
Yeah.
8th grade, but fuck me, right? So he's like, if you go full wolf, you could kill other people, and then they're gonna be like me, and I'm not digging it.
Yeah, this
they're
sucks.
not gonna dig it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
just please kill yourself.
Yeah. He goes, God damn it, David, please believe me.
Well, dude, I'm like, I'm a ghoul. Isn't this proof enough?
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I was like, you're sitting here having a conversation with them, but you won't believe them.
No, what more do you need?
He's like, I am straight up not having a good time.
Dude, I'm
David's
sorry.
like, I don't know.
Well, it's under advisement.
Are you?
Yeah, you seem
And he
jovial.
Calls him a meatloaf.
He does. It's like, dude, I didn't choose this.
You did this.
Because your ass ran away.
He did.
So Alex comes in and Jack is gone again. David tells her what happened, and again, she's super chill about it. No reservations. She just thinks you're upset. Your friend died, and so you're seeing him places, basically. Yeah. And so then David, for some reason, he references the original Wolfman film from 1941.
Yes.
And he's like...
With Bela Lugosi.
Yeah, Bela Lugosi, Claude Rains, and Lon Chaney Jr. And he's saying that, obviously, a man transforms into a werewolf.
Yeah.
And he's eventually killed by his own father. And so David, for some reason, believes that a werewolf can only be killed by someone who loves him.
Which was an odd thing to say.
Very odd.
And as I was watching it, I'm like, okay, eye roll.
Yes.
This is fucking foreshadowing.
Exactly. I'm like, she's
okay,
gonna
we already
have to
know the
kill
ending of this movie.
Him.
Yeah.
But then she's like, basically, you're so attractive. Again, after he says that weird shit about
Man,
the
it's hot,
Wolfman.
man.
Crazy. Yeah. How many times are you going to say you're a werewolf and you're still okay with it? It's like, no, I'm seeing my dead buddy. I'm serious.
You're so hot.
Boy, I want to fuck you.
No, what? It's like, did you hear a word I said? It's like, I mean, I will, but come on, listen to me. So this is when I'm starting to get into theories, because I'm like, by all counts, he's fucking insane at the very least.
Yeah.
And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, unless she knows about all this werewolf business, or what if she's like a she-wolf? She's so willing to accept
chill
it
about it that
I'm
suspicious.
like, it has to be.
It's suspicious.
It's not true, though.
No.
That doesn't come to pass, but that's how much she's cool with it.
Yeah.
So, in the next scene, we see Dr. Hirsch travel the road to the Slaughtered Lamb pub. He goes inside, orders a drink, and he's getting shifty looks from all the regulars. He's asking about what happened to David and Jack a few weeks prior, and they all play dumb.
Everyone is acting so suspicious. Yeah. They're like, incident? What's an incident? They're like,
what's an incident?
It's so over the top. We don't know anything.
No, it's real ridiculous. And so he sits down with the guy who told that joke from before, and he asks about the pentagram on the wall, just flat out. And they're like, oh, it's always been there.
Yeah.
We've always
been there
had
for 200 years.
Every pub has a pentagram, and
Like,
the scariest candles you ever saw. Yeah, we all have one of those. So he flat out starts asking about werewolves, period. Capital W, capital Airwolves.
Yes.
Without any kind of buffer. And they're not biting at all. The dart player, though, gets up and walks out.
That's the guy with the Peaky Blinders hat.
Yeah. So he goes out. Dr. Hirsch, he eventually leaves himself as well.
Because he's clearly not welcome here.
No, he's not getting any kind of traction with these folks. And he sees the dart player standing on his own in the rain with an umbrella. And so he's like, all right, I'm going to go over there and talk to him. So he talks to him. And the dart player says, basically, David's in danger, and so is everybody else.
He just spills the tea.
Yeah, which I don't know why he was so willing to.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good for Dr. Hirsch that he does,
no,
but it doesn't...
he's like, listen.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he was like, oh, that dude's friend got killed. We have already,
maybe somebody can help or something.
Yeah. And so he's like, look, on the next full moon, David's going to change. The Joker comes out and he's like, who are you talking to?
That's enough.
Yeah. Get the fuck out of here. So he sends him on his way, and that's the end of the conversation. Here's my issue. I was a little confused as to why suddenly Dr. Hirsch is like, maybe this werewolf business is legitimate. I'm going to go investigate it myself. Don't you have other patients?
Yeah.
Like, he just leaves the hospital?
Oh, yeah.
Well, we've determined the hours are weird at this hospital.
Clearly.
And duties, I guess.
But he just swung so far to the other side because he was so dismissive.
He was.
Earlier.
He's like, that dude say wolf, whatever, man.
Whatever.
And then now he's like, all right, so there's werewolves
I'm
in
gonna
this
take a
town.
drive out here.
I need everyone in town to tell me about it. He's like interviewing people. Like, he's the inspector. You know, that's the thing that is kind of weird. I would think that this scene would be better fitting if the inspectors had gone to the pub instead of Dr. Hirsch.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, for the service of the story, the inspectors have no tie to Alex.
That's fair.
Like, it had to be the doctor, I think, to bring it back.
And doesn't he say that he, like, I think you said earlier, he was like, your wounds were already cleaned before.
Yeah.
Maybe he was like, that...
But that seems like a detail that an inspector should be interested in.
Yeah, but I think the inspectors were like,
We gotta close
witnesses
this
saw
thing?
this, we have a body, it's closed.
Yeah, I guess.
This is an international incident. These are two American guys.
You kind of just want to put
One
them
of them
into
is
it.
dead. Let's just put this
the
to
American
bed.
ambassador wants to put... Or what was it? Not ambassador.
Whatever the fuck he was.
Frank Oz.
Yeah.
Yoda wants this done.
Miss Piggy is through with
She's
it.
Done. So that morning, David sees Alex off as she goes to work. And
Not dressed in her uniform.
No, maybe there's a locker room at the hospital. I didn't get that either.
I thought that was odd.
He gets some pretty harsh responses from some neighborhood animals.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, they hate him.
Nobody's into him at all.
The dog's barking and that cat is pissed.
Oh, yeah. I read on IMDb that to get the cat to hiss at him, they just brought another cat on set and showed it to the cat.
Were those my two cats? Because that's how they act.
I still can't get them to bond.
No, they won't.
Maybe one of them's a werewolf.
So he makes his way back into Alex's apartment and just kind of hangs out.
Well, he has to break back. He has to break in.
Yeah, he breaks in through the window, which is where he sees that cat get all pissy with him.
Yes.
Red Moon Rising by CCR is playing during like a little montage of him spending his day, and the lyrics oddly fit the situation.
No, it's so good. And this is like, as the song plays, it's like a quarantine montage of him trying to sleep, can't sleep, trying to eat, he's not hungry, trying to read, he can't get into
I've never related to anything more.
I thought it was
I thought that too. I was like, man, that's quarantine status right
Why
there.
does
Dude's
this look
bored
so
as fuck.
familiar?
That's me. So, oddly, one of the interesting things about this little montage is as the time is passing, David never gets hungry. He goes to the fridge several times.
And he's like, I'm not hungry.
I'm still not hungry.
Yeah.
Which I don't know that I'd say that to myself.
He wasn't hungry at the hospital either. I never put that together.
He wasn't.
I did not put that together.
She had to force him to eat.
Yeah.
It's like, I know what you're hungry for, sir.
Shit, that's pretty creepy. I didn't pick up on that at all.
So, we get a little odd, supposed to be funny scene of Alex in the hospital with that little kid again. I'm just like, whatever, next.
Who cares?
Yeah, I don't really care. But the important thing about that scene is towards the end, the camera tilts up to the window and you see that it's a full moon.
Yep.
Just as Jack
Told
said.
him, yeah.
So we're back to David. And suddenly he's overcome with pain.
This shit hits him
dude,
hard.
abruptly. He has no time to think about it.
He's trying to read.
Yeah. He's burning up. Mm-hmm. He rips off all his clothes and he slowly, painfully starts turning into a werewolf. And this is the scene we paid to see, folks.
My God.
It's amazing. Practical effects for the fucking win.
Yeah.
Dude, as you're watching
I couldn't take my eyes off. Like, I didn't want to blink.
You're like, this is why Rick Baker won the Academy Award here.
No,
it is amazing. Even like for today.
Yes,
like,
it holds up. It
amazing.
holds up. And for my money, one of, if not the best, maybe outside of John Carpenter's The Thing, transformation scenes of all time. And you know that if this were today, they'd be doing some shitty CGI.
It would be totally CGI.
It wouldn't have as much impact.
No, not at all.
But,
But
man.
you see his hands stretch. You see his body limbs elongate.
Yeah.
You see the hair appear.
His
face. You see his like mouth kind of stretch into a snout. Now, one thing I will say that's very interesting, and I'm not sure how they do this with the practical effects that they used. His body is turning werewolfy. His head is not yet, but he throws his head back to scream, and when he puts it back down, his face looks more wolfy.
Yeah.
Like it must have been the quickest cut, like the splice of film. It is incredible.
It's insane.
It's incredible. But
I like impressed is not enough of a word.
no, it just happened so gradually. I don't know how they did it.
No, it's incredible.
I did read that this sequence, which is maybe a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes, I'm not sure. I read that it took 6 days to film.
I bet
this sequence.
I bet it did. I mean,
it's incredible.
Can you imagine just the amount of work that went into every second?
Oh no.
I read that Rick Baker was pissed off because his face transformation is only 7 seconds of screen time.
Oh.
And he was like, I worked my ass off. Like, he was pissed until he went and saw it with an audience and their reaction to it. He was like, okay.
Well done.
Yeah.
All right.
That when that 7 seconds, people were like,
well, you don't
like,
need it
I
to
was
be
too.
that long. You just need it to fit.
Yeah.
And then this particular part, it was
Hell
really
yeah.
good.
Just incredible.
Yeah.
This is one of the scenes that you've heard about even if you've never seen the movie.
Yeah.
And like you said, you were talking about Silver Bullet. You said you think they kind of
I will say that they took inspiration from
it.
An American Werewolf in London. I think I can safely say that.
I feel like how can you not?
I mean, if you're gonna do werewolves, if you're gonna have a werewolf transforming,
This is what you want.
Yeah,
come
do it
on.
like that.
Yeah. So in the next scene, a young couple is headed to a dinner party, but before they make it inside, they get absolutely demolished by a wolf.
Yep.
David. I mean, let's be real. And not
be
even a wolf,
honest.
a werewolf. It's David. So one thing I will say is that you can tell they kind of blew all their money on that transformation scene.
Yeah.
Because when you do see the wolf out in the wild attacking people, it's
not as impressive.
it's definitely a wolf's head apparatus on a stick of some kind.
Right.
But in the quick cut shots, that's the best way to shoot it because seeing the whole thing we already did and it was amazing. Don't overdo it.
Yeah.
I also read that John Landis was insistent on a werewolf that traveled on all fours.
Really?
He modeled it after his dog, is what he said. And Rick Baker wanted a bipedal werewolf, which I prefer.
I prefer that
bipedal werewolf.
I think it's scarier, and
it is. And even in like the scenes where, like the little quick scenes that we see in the forest where he's running, as I was watching it, I was like, why is it so low?
Right.
But that's why,
Because he had to be.
He walks like a dog.
And I think that's my problem with werewolves in horror now is that they go very heavy on it looking like a dog.
Yeah.
A lot of times when they transform, it just looks like a big dog.
What's a wolf man?
Yeah, you're missing out. It's like if you're like, my movie has a centaur in it and it's just a horse. Like, you fucking lied. Where's the man part? No, it's a centaur. No, it's not.
But yeah, I thought that was interesting because I feel like most werewolves are represented as bipedal creatures.
And I much prefer that.
Yeah, but he was insistent upon one that got around like a dog.
I don't know.
When I think of a wolf, I think of it's on four legs. Not
a wolf, not
but
a
a
werewolf.
It's,
I don't know.
Agree to disagree.
All right. So Dr. Hirsch is back at the hospital and he's asking around for Alex. They talk in his office and he says that he's concerned about David now.
I just think it's interesting that he's like, has Alex been seeing David? Like, does she do this?
Thinking about it, yeah. Well, yeah, because he would have no way of knowing.
No.
And honestly, for all he knows, that's nurse patient.
Yes.
Like, have you seen him? Well, he left the hospital. I don't know. You
so,
know.
like, does Alex just get down like this?
Yeah,
or?
how many werewolves has she?
right.
So Dr. Hirsch says it's a full moon tonight and he's worried. And so they call her apartment because that's where he's supposed to be. And he doesn't answer because he's getting into some wolf business, obviously. So we're back to that party that the young couple never made it to. And the host, for some reason, he decides to go investigate. He wanders really far away from the house.
Holding a drink in his hand.
Holding a drink. Well, he's like, I'll be right back. I need, he's got to stay hydrated. So as he's walking to try and find the guests that haven't arrived, he stumbles across a severed arm. Doesn't seem to have much of a reaction to it
I don't think that's how I would feel.
No.
If I stepped on a hand. It's like, where's the body?
Yeah, definitely.
Just like,
not.
No, he says the name of the person that he was looking for when he steps on the arm. I don't remember the name, but he's like, Jim? It's just odd. So, like I said, Dr. Hirsch can't get through to David because he's out doing all that werewolf stuff. He asks Alex if David has continued on with his werewolf fantasies. Just an odd way to ask that. Because he's starting to get super suspicious because of the conversations that he had with the people at the pub.
Yeah.
And so he's starting to put it together.
And it's a full moon right now. I mean, I'm sure he's like, what's happening?
But interestingly, he doesn't believe that David's a werewolf. He believes that David might believe he's a werewolf.
Right.
And so it's a full moon, and now he's maybe having like a psychotic episode doing what he thinks a werewolf would be doing right now. And so it's still dangerous.
Yeah.
I thought you said you weren't a psychiatrist.
Yeah, I know. And now he's like, and then... Yeah.
But, too, how do you answer that? You know
Yeah,
what I
don't
mean?
know.
Do you know where the werewolf man is? Fuck, I slept with this dude.
Yeah, oh,
No.
Yeah. No, I never heard of him. So the thing is that the doctor says that the police reports are now missing. And step one in a cover-up, don't make it look like a cover-up.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, that's just bad business. So, like I said, he doesn't fully believe that the whole thing is true, but he thinks it's reason enough to call the police.
Yeah.
And so they do. In the next scene, a few vagrants are hanging out by a bridge, and they meet the business end of a werewolf's teeth.
Yeah.
This was another scene that had to be cut to get the R rating.
Really?
They said there was a whole scene of him, I guess, mauling these 3 men.
Uh-huh.
And they said that it was too gory. And then I think it was John Landis that said when they had done previews that the scene was so gory that people kept talking after. And he was like, well, they're not paying attention because they're like, oh, shit. Like, did you see that? So that's cut. But like originally we were supposed to see that.
See, yeah. And when I saw it again, it was very quick cuts. And I was like, well, you know, it's kind of good because, again, we saw the full werewolf. We don't want to overuse it. And then we're desensitized to it.
Yeah.
But part of me would kind of like to have seen how that went down. So the next scene, we're at a subway station. A well-dressed man is buying gum from a machine. He's promptly startled by what I can only describe as werewolf noises.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's no other way to misconstrue it. And so he's like, who's there?
What I love is that if this were an American subway, it would be, hey, come on, this isn't funny. This dude literally says, I can assure you, this is not the least bit amusing. He's like, look, let's be clear.
I'm not having fun. I need you to know that. So, to me, instead of talking to whatever you think it is, just get your ass out of there
Get the fuck
before
out of the
you
subway.
get eaten.
He's the only one there.
He is
Nobody
the only one
else
there.
is
Nobody
there.
else has gone off at the stop. Now, the sounds are continuing, and he decides to kind of just take off running. And now, I will say, these shots of him running through whatever tunnel station situation, they're very cool.
Yeah.
Because they're from the point of view of the werewolf, but you see just him chasing him, and they're very well done.
Right.
He ends up on an escalator, and he falls onto the escalator as it's going up. And he turns around, and like JP said, you kind of get the full shot of this thing on all fours.
Yeah.
In this instant, the way that it's shot from far away, it does look pretty eerie.
Yeah.
And you get a POV shot of the wolf finally getting up to the guy, but you don't see the mauling at all. It actually cuts away, and when you expect to see a werewolf's face chomping down, it's a lion.
I was like, what the fuck is happening in the subway?
No, seriously. Oh, and that's the other thing that I wanted to mention. As he's running, there's a sign on the wall.
The orgy sign?
Yes.
Yeah.
It says, nonstop orgy, see you next Wednesday.
Yeah.
Now, they're casting a wide net for this orgy because not only are they putting up a sign at the subway.
But that's something that comes into play later.
In
Yeah, but I was like, what the fuck is that?
So anyways, like I said, Business Boy was on the menu, and then we cut away to a lion's face. And at first I was like, oh shit, he's a lion now? I was like, is this, what's going on? But instead we're at the London Zoo, and we're getting a shot of a bunch of animals just kind of losing their mind. And the reason they're losing their mind is because David is inside one of those enclosures.
With the wolves.
And he wakes up naked, and dude was busy that night because he earned a good night's rest because he killed six people? So he wakes up in the wolves enclosure, and he oddly is kind of at home, and the wolves are kind of at home because they're not reacting anything.
Like, what's up, man?
Yeah, how's it going? You're one of us.
I read that he was really in there with those wolves, and that he would only do one take. They did that in one take because he was scared. Yeah,
I would have too. We're doing this one time. Don't
one time only.
Yeah. The wolves seemingly were pretty well trained.
Yeah, they were chill.
But he hops out of there completely naked.
It took off.
And he gets out really easily. Like, I don't think enclosures are supposed to be that easy to get.
Because then the wolves would be getting out super easy too.
The top part was broken where he climbed out.
Where he got in.
That makes sense. That's probably how he got in.
That does make sense. So I was like, that shouldn't be that easy.
You're telling me Werewolf David was like, oh, my people. And he gets in there and he's like, I'm just going to go to sleep. So he makes his way out of the zoo with the help of a really bad child actor's balloons.
I just want to say that if you find yourself in a public place naked,
right,
probably the last thing you should do is hide in the bushes and whisper at a child.
Yeah, no, that was...
That's probably the final thing that you should do.
And I'm sorry, but if I am in that situation, even if the kid has balloons, I'm not like, that's what I'll use, the balloons to cover my junk. No.
I thought he was going to take his hat.
Yeah, that makes a lot. Just snap, yoink, and then just run away. Instead, he takes the kid's balloons, he puts them over his crotch, and he's running, and then he steals some lady's jacket off of a bench.
He's hauling ass when he passes.
He is hauling ass. I read that they filmed that at the zoo.
Yeah. The child telling his mom, a naked American man stole my balloons, and the mom going, what, is the funniest shit. Like, that was hilarious to me.
Because it sounds like a madman's.
Sounds so funny.
Yeah. So David is now wearing this woman's coat, and he's waiting in line, and the murders have made the newspapers.
Yeah.
Which the headline's pretty funny. It said, "Murder victims found half eaten."
What else do you need to know?
But then also, everyone's trying to keep it under wraps. You'd think that the pub people would be like, look, any wolf business, we got to keep an eye out for.
Well, it's a different town.
It's true. It's London. It's not. Okay. Fair enough.
Maybe the werewolves usually kick it out in the sticks and they can kind of sweep it under the rug.
Yeah, but here, they're
in
the media.
London town.
London town. So he's waiting for the bus, and he says to another man that's waiting, he goes, a lot of weather we've been having lately. Not what kind of weather, just, general weather. It's been happening.
Weather.
It's funny to me because after all these maulings, these scenes are being played for laughs. The thing with the kid escaping the zoo,
and it's
all
like
that stuff.
Genuinely funny too.
No, it's actually comical.
Yeah.
It wasn't like cringy or anything like that.
No.
And that's what I liked. That's why I said it's not like a goofy movie where it plays on itself. This is like, it's funny.
Yeah.
And
It's legitimately.
It's really funny.
And not even like over the top cheesy.
No,
it's
not at all.
It's just funny.
So David finally makes it back to Alex's apartment, who's been waiting up for him.
But he rolls in wearing this woman's coat and nothing else. Like, this is normal.
Yeah.
You're going to be with me. Sometimes this shit just happens.
Yeah. Well, but the thing is
you
that
invited me here.
He has no recollection of the werewolf business. And so he's like, dude, I lost my mind. I woke up at the zoo. He's like, I was like reading or something. I was like reading or something. Yeah. And then I wake up naked in a zoo. It's insane.
And Alex is like, oh, you.
Yeah, like she's still. She's like, you're so attractive.
Yeah.
And like, what's funny is you spent last night talking to this doctor thinking that he could be out there hurting himself or somebody else.
Yes.
Having this major psychotic break. And he walks in and she's just like, oh, hey, like, did you forget completely?
It's insanity. I don't understand. But Dr. Hirsch calls and Alex tells him what happened. She's like, oh, it's fine. He's back. No big deal.
Yeah.
And he's reading the paper. So he's like, you bring David here immediately.
Yeah.
And so oddly, she agrees. I thought that was a little interesting.
Yeah.
And so he gets off the phone with her and then phones the police right after. So David oddly feels great. I guess all he needed was just to go a little wolfy.
Yeah.
And then he's back to normal.
amazing.
He's recharged 100%. So they get into a cab, and the cab driver starts talking about the murders from the night before, and David pieces it together immediately. And so he tells the cabbie to pull over, and he tells Alex, he's like, look, I got to turn myself in because there's going to be another full moon tonight. Now, that's not how moons work.
Yeah.
No, we've had 3 pretty consecutively.
I will say they can excuse the first one because they're like, look, you and Jack got mauled by a wolf. You've been in the hospital for 3 weeks.
It was weeks. That's true.
But then we have a full moon. And the next night we have another full moon.
Yeah.
So no,
but this is an English moon.
Oh, the moon cycles in England.
Yeah, it's different.
They're one day actually. One day. Well, they're 3 weeks, then they're one day apart. It's an odd moon cycle. So he tries to turn himself into the first officer that he sees, but he's like, "Move along."
He's like, "Get out of here."
Yeah. So he tries to create a scene in order to get arrested, but the officer still refuses because you've got Alex in his ear like, well, his friend just died. He's, and she's like, cut it out, man.
The scene was really funny, though.
No, it is because he's yelling
He's trying to be as offensive as he can.
He is. He's talking about the queen. He's talking about...
Yeah, he's just throwing a tantrum, though.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie, though. If I was a werewolf, I probably wouldn't tell anybody. I'd be like,
Well, I think it is noble that he's like, I gotta get myself out of here.
No, yeah, he's a good person.
Yeah.
Tell me if you didn't get some kind of power powers or something, you would immediately be like, "Oh shit, I need help."
Yeah.
I'd be like,
Let's figure
have
this
this-
out.
yeah,
Let's
this
sit
isn't
with
so
this for
bad.
a
This
little
goes.
bit.
So one thing I will say is that after the first officer denies, he's like he declines arresting him. David goes, "It's hopeless.
Yeah.
Maybe try a second officer." I don't know. You tried one officer and you gave up very easily. So Alex tries to get him to go see Dr. Hirsch, but he tells her, you got to stay away from me. I'm dangerous. It's for her own safety that he's telling her this. He tells her he loves her, and then he runs away.
He barely
It's like,
knows
you
her.
love her?
Yeah, how do you love her?
When you think about it, it's been 3 weeks in the hospital. He was asleep.
That
And
doesn't
then
count.
3-4 days of knowing her, and then a couple days out of the hospital, and he's in
Yeah.
love with her. But maybe werewolves just love differently. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know what they do.
Everything's cranked up to an 11.
Exactly. So Alex goes to see the doctor, and the inspector and the sergeant are in there with them. The inspector does not believe whatsoever that there's a connection between David and the murders, but he's like, we're going to go find him anyway. Which I don't know why, because if you don't believe the connection, you really don't have a reason
Yeah.
to. So David is in one of those awesome English phone booths, and he's calling his family, but his parents aren't home, so he's talking to his sister, and he tells her, he's like, tell mom and dad I love them. He's like, I love you. Be nice to your brother. It's a very sincere moment in an oddly insincere movie.
It's like he's
Yeah.
saying goodbye. He knows.
Basically,
Yeah.
he knows.
I mean, that
what's
phone
going
call,
on.
you got to be. I mean, I know he's talking to a kid, but you have to be like, are you okay?
No,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like, it sounded very,
What's-
this is the last
yeah.
time I'm going to talk to you.
So he gets off the phone, and he's about to take Jack's advice and just kill himself in the phone booth. He takes a knife and he puts it to his wrist, but he gives up on that plan as soon as he looks across the street and he sees Jack staring at him from outside of a theater. And you don't know it completely yet, but Jack is even more messed up.
Man.
And we get to see that in a second, but he gestures for David to follow him into the theater, and it's one of those porno theaters you've heard so much about. And it actually has
Which is where the "See you next Wednesday" comes in.
exactly that line, the poster we saw in the subway. So, as I said, Jack looks
He is
horrible,
fucked up.
but horrible in the best way. It's clearly a puppet situation going on, and it's cheesy, but in all the right
It's
ways.
so good.
And I love it.
And what I thought was
yeah.
cool is the puppeteer was holding the puppet when they did the scene, and the actor was there with him doing the voice.
Oh, my
so they
God.
were both there
Dude, it
doing
was so good. So he's still being himself, though. He's
Look,
still.
David goes, "You look awful." He's like, "Thank you."
Yeah, I mean, he's like,
Jerk.
I told you, I'm gonna
What
do
do you
this
think?
until you're dead, dude. So I thought this was pretty cool. All the victims that David murdered the night previous are also hanging out in the theater, and they're not happy.
No.
The guy from the subway specifically is not
Yeah.
happy.
He says that he's here because of David's carnivorous lunar activities, which is what I want to name my werewolf movie.
No,
when I go out.
yeah.
I was like, that is the fucking best way I've ever heard it put.
That's a band name. That's an album.
It's so
That is
good.
so good. But I guess Jack has filled everyone in on their predicament. They're like, look, you're going to be this until this dude's dead. And so they're all trying to get in on it and tell him,
And that came off as funny to me too.
Oh, dude, it was
the
so
way they're
funny.
like, just shoot yourself,
Dude,
hang yourself.
It was the humor was so dry.
Yes.
But it was probably, for me, the funniest scene in
It
the
was
entire
hilarious.
movie. I genuinely loved this
No,
scene.
yeah.
Outside of the transformation scene, this might be my favorite scene in the whole
so
movie.
funny. And then he's like, "Don't I need a silver bullet?" Jack's like, "Ugh." Like,
Dude, he's like, be serious. He's like, jeez, dude. Don't fucking embarrass me in front of all my new ghoul
Right?
friends.
Not
so
the dead
funny.
people
Yeah,
are
come
here.
on, man.
But I'm glad that he said that because it breaks the whole.
Yes,
Yes,
this is
exactly.
I
its
need
own.
a cross and a silver bullet and this
Yeah.
and that. It's like, no.
No.
That's just in the movies,
Yeah.
man.
Dude, but it was so good. Now, I will say, there's a lot of porno audio happening.
Yeah.
Which kind of takes away from the scene a little bit.
I think it adds to how like ludicrous it is.
Really?
Like, this is insane.
Oh, of course it is.
The whole everything that's happening
Yeah.
right now.
And I did read that it's a fake film.
Well, no, yeah.
And-
I
they-
hope that
No,
film is fake.
It's ridiculous. It's a fake film, and apparently they filmed the fake porn first before anything on this film.
Yeah, because this film weirdly was filmed completely sequentially. Like,
Yes.
no movie does that. They filmed the first scene in order all the way to the last scene.
Yeah.
But before anything, they filmed that
What the
weird
hell?
fake porn. Yeah.
So, like I said, the dark humor is really working for me in that scene.
Absolutely.
The moon, like we said earlier, is miraculously full again tonight. And David turns into a werewolf inside the porno theater.
Which the sounds he's making, like, I feel like the guy comes up because he's like, what the fuck's going on over here?
He's like, we are here to watch the movie.
Yeah. What are you doing?
Take that home, Paul Rubens. So we saw a lot of really cool makeup during the initial transformation scene, but the only thing that we didn't see were the appearance of the claws.
Right.
And we see that
Oh.
this time, and it looks so painful.
I, like,
as
winced.
It
Like-
pierces through
Yeah, I
his
seen
fingers.
Ooh, it looks
And it
bad.
looks incredible.
Yeah, it looks like painful as hell.
So the guy that came up to him, David makes a meal out of him. And
Hey, didn't he bite his fucking head off or something?
Yeah.
so I guess another person comes in to investigate.
A cop.
A cop, that's what it was. And when he goes inside,
David is actively lunching.
oh yeah, you're right. Because when the cop discovers him, David's in the middle
He's
of eating the
eating,
guy.
yeah.
And then he's like, "All right, you want some too? Let's get wolfy." There's chaos in the lobby, but for some reason the movie hasn't stopped playing. I think they were just really proud of it. So the cop is honestly the smartest person in the film because when he sees the werewolf eating the other guy, he bails
Takes
out.
the fuck off.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
He closes the shutters and like barricades the wolf inside the theater. And I'm like, good call.
Yeah, and I read that the people that are walking on the street are real people who think that they're actually boarding up a wild animal inside that theater.
Dude, no
No.
wonder.
Yeah, so that the panic and like that's
No,
real.
because it felt really real.
Yeah.
And it's funny because you're seeing all these landmarks in England. You know, you got
Yeah.
the Piccadilly Circus, you've got the London Zoo, and then you've got
Yeah.
and you see the phone booths, you see
Yeah.
double-decker buses. It's like a touristy film in a
no,
weird
yeah,
way.
in like the best way.
Yeah,
though.
almost, you know, when you think about it, it's basically what David and Jack were hoping to do before this
Fuck.
all went south.
That's really sad.
Yeah.
So the inspector and the sergeant arrive at the theater, but before they get any idea of what's going on, David breaks through the shutters and literally chews the inspector's head off.
Yep.
Just chews it off.
He does.
Like nothing. Immediately.
Yep.
And so people are screaming. Shit is just going crazy.
People are saying that it's a mad dog. That's what they think it is.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, technically.
You're half
Big-ass
right.
dog, yeah.
You're
Yeah.
almost there. So there's car crashes. People are being exploded through windshields.
Dude, they are
People-
running over
Dude,
people.
it's-
people are getting run over.
fucking
Crazy.
nuts.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
People are crashing into buildings, storefronts. I read that they only had a certain amount of time to film this part, and they didn't necessarily get permission to film car crashes, but they did it anyway. So everyone makes way for the wolf, and he kind of just bails. Now, I will say, and this is kind of to the detriment of the film for me personally, seeing the wolf again, the full body, it doesn't look as good. Because they show
doesn't.
it kind of extended more than they ever did
Yeah.
before. It would have been smarter just to keep to what they had done before with these quick shots.
I agree. It doesn't look as good, but the ending is so good that I forgive.
Fair.
I forgive.
And in the chaos, it's pretty neat.
Yeah.
I will say. So Dr. Hirsch and Alex they say, you know, that's what's funny to me. Dr. Hirsch is like, there's something going on in the city involving some sort of mad dog, like you
Yeah.
said. And she goes, David.
Yeah.
So she flat
That's
out
my
believes.
man.
That's the
Yeah,
other
now-
thing. She believes he's a werewolf and she's still cool with it.
Yeah.
Like-
He's very attractive.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Apparently,
Yeah.
I don't know. What do I know? So David makes his way into an alley, still in his full werewolf form, and the police kind of seal off the street, and they're bringing in the full artillery for this thing, like I guess the equivalent of the British SWAT.
Yeah.
These guys are only wearing sweaters and guns. Now,
Yeah,
I don't know.
there's
I
no
mean,
They're not
armor,
prepared
there's
for
no-
American
werewolf.
SWAT teams, they go in there
Oh yeah.
dressed in full armor.
Mm-hmm.
These dudes have a turtleneck and a rifle, and they're like, make way, make way.
It's called class.
What happens if you get shot at yourself or somebody attacks you?
They didn't think that far ahead.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, it's nippy outside, Chops. Put your sweater on.
So Alex and Dr. Hirsch are on their way in a vehicle, but she gets out of the vehicle and rushes directly to the alley where the werewolf is cornered.
Yeah.
I don't know how she knew that's where he would be, but I guess, love finds a way.
Love finds a way.
So Alex breaks through the armed men and the police, and they don't really try that hard to stop her.
No, because this is a very small woman.
It really
and
is.
she's able to overpower them to get to
Yes.
the alley.
And so she sees the werewolf and she tries to appeal to him, and he seems oddly receptive at first. Like he's like kind of snarling, and he's got his eyes like in total like I'm gonna eat you mode.
Yeah.
And then they kind of soften a little bit, almost like he's like, oh shit, that's
Because
Alex.
she says, I love you.
Yeah, yes,
Yeah.
that's right. She tells him that she also loves him after 4 days. And he's soft for that moment, and then he snarls again. And when he does, he gets shot down by the SWAT team, and then immediately is back to his human form.
'Cause he's dead.
They killed him
Yeah.
incredibly fast, and then you don't see it, but Jack's like, hell yes.
Yeah.
Finally. So because everyone's always trying to keep this under wraps, I'm wondering if the police are like, now everyone's going to need to sign a non-disclosure agreement about everything you've seen up to this point. But you see Alex looking at David's dead human body, and she just starts to cry. And then they show the body again, and then the movie just sort of ends there.
Bum da da dum da dum da dum.
Yeah. So, what did you guys think of An American Werewolf in London?
I thought that was the best way to end the movie.
The ending was perfect.
Really?
Perfect for me.
We didn't need any more explanation. We didn't need any more, but we were going to get married.
true.
In
We-
any
none
other
of that.
movie, him saying that it had to be somebody that loves you to put you down, basically,
Right.
would have meant that she would have to be the one to shoot him at the end.
And that's what we all assumed was going
In
to happen.
any other movie, her saying "I love you" would have humanized him.
Yes.
He would have either turned back or gotten under control, and this all would have been a misunderstanding. Like
Or they would have shot her, and then he would have turned normal. No,
Something.
just
No,
that's
yeah,
not how it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's not how
That's
it
true.
goes. He's a fucking werewolf.
He's dangerous.
I love
Yes.
you means nothing.
And man, for a horror comedy, as they put
Yeah.
it, they made the werewolf scary again.
No,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine seeing this in 1981 because this is a very incredible creature feature.
Yeah.
Unlike probably anything they had seen up to that point.
No, yeah.
But yeah, that ending was everything. Like you said, you don't need any more than
Yeah,
that.
you don't need, that's it.
The whole story was told. His
Yes,
visit to London
that's
is
right.
over.
It's
Yeah.
done.
Like,
Your passport's been revoked.
yes.
Yeah, you had no connections
And-
to anybody over
and
there.
he hadn't.
No.
Everybody that he had attacked, he killed. So it's done.
Another thing that I did read that was kind of interesting to me was that there was a commentary on one of the releases of the DVD, and David Naughton and Griffin Dunn were on the commentary, and they had said that they kind of made it on purpose that David wasn't killed with a silver bullet, and so they were like, hey, are we going to do a sequel? And John Landis was like, no.
Good.
Yeah, no.
So I'm like, good. Like,
Well, because
you don't have to
scoffed at the idea of a silver
exactly.
bullet earlier.
So it makes perfect sense. And the thing to me is that they changed up werewolf lore so interestingly, because not only does a silver bullet not kill you, you have all this stuff with Jack and all these
Yeah.
lost souls that are just wandering aimlessly until this
Until
thing
you're
gets
dead.
settled.
Yeah.
They made not only werewolves scary again, they made them interesting again.
Yeah.
And I don't think that, now I have not seen The Howling.
Neither have I. And that's the other one that comes up in conversation
Yes.
when you talk about werewolf movies.
But like I said at the top, this is probably the most well put together werewolf movie I've ever seen.
No, I like I said at the beginning, I loved it and I was not expecting
Yeah.
to love it.
Well, I'm glad.
Another interesting thing that I don't know if it's fair or not,
What's
but
that?
David Naughton
Uh-huh.
was the spokesman for Dr. Pepper.
Oh, really?
before this, and he lost his job because he was naked so much in this movie.
Well-
Which I read he is naked in 50% of his screen time
Holy
in
shit.
this movie.
Well,
And
if
Dr.
I'm-
Pepper was like, we're not about that life.
If I'm Dr. Pepper, yes, he's a person.
Dr. Pepper MD.
Yeah, exactly. Dude hangs dong.
He does.
I don't really. It's 1981. I don't really want that. Like, imagine though. I understand it. It is kind of stupid because, but then again, at the same time, if I'm David Naughton, I'm like, that was my big break. Fuck you, Dr.
Fuck
Pepper.
you, yeah.
You know?
Think I need a soda?
Exactly. I don't need a soda. I'm a goddamn werewolf.
I do want to say one thing, and I thought it was funny
What's
that
that?
I also read on Internet Movie. The Muppet Show that they're watching in his dream.
Uh-huh.
That segment that's on their TV it's never aired in the U.S.
Really?
So everyone from the States thought that it was fake, and they were like, why do they have that Muppet Show on there when that's never aired here? So they said, yeah, it's a real segment of the Muppet Show. So instead of them, I guess, with the legal reasons or whatever, they credit Kermit the Frog and Miss Piggy at the end of this movie.
As
So
themselves?
yeah, so they have a credit in this movie
That
as
is
themselves.
Dude, that is
hilarious.
really, really funny.
That's so funny.
I also read at the end credits there was an apology to Princess Diana.
Yes.
Because
Oh,
during
yeah,
his little
he-
outburst, he is talking shit. Is it Prince Charles? Who was the one that was? I don't remember who was married to her, but there's an apology to them and a congratulations on their
On
wedding.
their wedding.
I thought that was pretty great. But yeah, great movie.
Yeah, man.
So that brings us to ratings. So I'm going to be honest with both of you. Up to the transformation scene, I was enjoying the movie, and I was like, you know what, this is a solid. I'll probably give it maybe like a 5, 6 out of, But after the transformation scene and on, and then when my favorite scene happened outside of the transformation scene in that theater with all the ghouls and all
Yes.
that, it got bumped up so much that it kind of surprised me. So this is a very fun movie
Yeah.
with amazing effects that stand the test of time. I mean, what is that? 39 years later?
Yeah.
And we're like, damn, this looks
Yeah.
good. So, out of 10 full moons, I am giving An American Werewolf in London 8 out of 10 full moons.
All right.
I'm opening the floor. What about you guys?
Because I had already seen this movie, and I do remember it being good, but I didn't remember a lot of it. Like I said, I didn't remember about 85% of it. Watching it again, and your sister enjoying it, and
Yeah.
me getting to see the reactions on her face for the first time, and then, talking with y'all about it, I'm going to give it 8.5 full moons.
Wow.
But I really enjoyed this movie from, like I said, from being a kid, and I knew that it was scary and that it was good, but I
Yeah.
just couldn't remember it because it's been so long.
Mm-hmm.
But watching again, even as an adult, and it being that old, I was like, I could watch this movie again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I could again. I know last time we talked about the rewatchability factor.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I feel like this is one of those movies you can
Definitely.
start it over.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I
Start
totally
it over.
agree.
It's that good. And it's funny.
Yeah, no, it is.
Like, the humor
Like
is actually
legitimately
funny.
And
yeah.
it's not like a stupid, scary movie funny. It's like a good,
Yes.
real good funny.
There's some... The only thing I can do is brand it as that like late 70s, early 80s comedy, that dry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just works. And then it's scary on top of it.
Yeah.
How can you
No,
go
it's
wrong?
Good.
All right.
Okay.
So, like I said, the ending was perfect for I really enjoy a movie that surprises me.
Uh-huh.
It did not go in any way how I had expected it to go. It was such a pleasant surprise, like this movie as a whole.
Yes.
But for its funniness, for the ending, in my mind, I had given it 7 out of 10.
Okay.
That transformation scene
Oh my God.
alone, which I think we said was a 2-minute scene,
Yeah, maybe.
it gets an entire additional point for the 2 minutes of transformation into and
yeah.
the fact that, again, my favorite werewolf movie was Silver Bullet, and Silver Bullet took some inspiration from this transformation scene. So I give An American Werewolf in London 8 full moons out of 10. It was, and it's funny that I gave the same score to a very, very serious, very accurate, historically accurate fucking,
Right.
but man,
No.
this movie impressed the hell out of me.
It really, really did.
Well, that's why, and I know, you guys said that y'all had never seen it, and I know I didn't remember a lot of it, but that's why I had been telling you to watch it, because I was I
you
can't
were right.
remember it. I was like, but I remember it having an impression.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I was
Absolutely.
like, man, that movie was good. Even if me not remembering it, but my brain telling me that movie was
You
good.
liked it.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
know you did. Don't even front.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like I said, watching it again, it was like, that's why I remembered it. That's why I.
No, full props. I was wrong.
You were dead on. And
American Werewolf in London forever. It was.
Now
you're buying the t-shirt.
I can't.
I'll join their Patreon.
I can't speak for American Werewolf in Paris, which I'm sure we'll do at some point.
Probably. I've never.
But
I've never.
I
seen
heard
that
it's
one.
way heavier on the comedy.
It is, and as bad as it sounds, I've seen that movie about 10 times.
Really?
Yeah, but it's. I was actually talking to a really good buddy of mine, and we were talking about that one, about American Werewolf in Paris. And it's the best way to describe it is it's a MTV generation, like the 90s generation movie, late 90s generation movie.
See,
so it is heavier on the comic.
Yeah.
On the comedy.
you can't see
But-
me and Nate grimacing.
No, but even me
Yeah.
thinking about parts that I like can clearly remember is like, it's like, how is that gonna play now?
No.
You know what I mean?
Oh.
So it doesn't hold a candle to this.
Oh no.
Because
No.
good lord.
Yeah,
And
no.
the thing is that they never intended to make a sequel.
No, yeah.
And then someone did. But
That's a shame.
I feel like this is one of those movies that can just stand alone as
No,
one of
no,
those
Definitely.
classics.
I
It
would,
was
I would
great.
like if there wasn't so much porn or nakedness to let the kids watch it.
Yeah.
Because we do let them watch a lot of scary stuff.
Yeah.
And if we have to have them close their eyes, they will.
Yeah.
But there's a lot.
there's too much.
that
And
is a drawback. And
that scene in the porno theater is so important, and it's
Yeah, it
very
is.
audible.
yeah.
No, yeah,
like,
the whole
as they're
time,
talking.
Yeah, I feel like that's one of the major things I would change.
Yeah.
If they
Maybe just turn down the audio a little
Just
bit
a little
on the
bit.
movie.
Or
yeah.
I
maybe,
wonder what whose decision was that? Like,
John Landis.
But
well, yeah.
But I mean, you're in there, and if you're watching a movie, it's not going to turn down just because you're talking to the person.
no, maybe
next
somebody
No, I
maybe
get
someone
it.
could get thrown into the projector.
Something.
You know,
Oh
or something.
yeah,
And then it's just done.
somebody running, and then the
Yeah.
thing messes up. Yeah.
Yeah. And then back then they had projector operators. You're telling me he's like, and there's the cigarette burns. Let's change the
Slicing
reel.
it.
Yeah. Get out of there. So don't you see the werewolf? Well, that's all from us at Pod Mortem. What would you rate An American Werewolf in London, and what should we watch next? Let us know on Twitter at the Pod Mortem. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and like us on Facebook. Be sure to follow each of us on Twitter at TravisMWH, at Blood and Smoke, and at RealStreeter84. Remember, never stray far from the path. You never know what's waiting out there for you. Until next time.